everybody, and welcome back to the Bedtime with Cousin Vinny series, exclusively on YouTube. And no, I don't normally dress up like this in the old Chicago White Sox uniform and carry the Devil's glove, but today is, of course, another edition of the Bedtime with Cousin Vinny series, featuring my critically acclaimed Christian favorite, The Devil's Glove, a book that the big publishing houses don't want you to know about, but has been raved and reviewed by people like yourself and small newspapers all over the country, thanks to a 10-month national tour I took in 2014. Well, at the end of this big tease of about 180 pages done in 15-minute segments every night, I'm going to give you a chance to get this beautiful book, the second edition of The Devil's Glove, for a very reasonable price, autographed, and only thing I ask of you is to pass the love, spread the love, let the rest of your friends know about this book so that we'll get on the Oprah Winfrey book club before we know it. Anyway, back to reading. I got some good stuff for you tonight. Last night we left you off. And I'm going to carry the Devil's Glove, if you don't mind. Put it right next to me here. Last time I left you off with Eddie at practice, and he's using the Devil's Glove for the first time, and it's on page 79, and here we go. Stevie sneered over at Eddie and spit intimidatingly in his direction. Stevie wound up and pitched a letter-high fastball over the middle of the plate, and Eddie hit it with a sweet spot of the aluminum bat barrel. The ball took off as if it was fired from a rocket launcher and soared over the left fielder's head. Eddie stood and watched the flight of the ball in complete amazement. Never in his entire life had he hit a ball any harder. Superstitiously, he retreated back to his magic glove and kissed it again. He then marched back into the batter's box. "Stevie, pitch me another one just like that," Eddie said with an exaggerated grin on his face. Stevie was not amused with either Eddie's newfound confidence or his unbecoming cockiness, and proceeded to deliver another beanball that failed to hit its mark. Eddie got up from the ground quickly and dusted himself off once again. "You throw at me again and I'm going to take this bat to your head. Do you understand me, Stevie?" Eddie forewarned. Stevie could see from the fire in Eddie's eyes that he meant business, and that was the last time he ever attempted to throw at him. Stevie, now more than slightly intimidated, reared back and threw a fastball knee-high over the center of the plate, and Eddie bent down and took a golf swing at it, driving the ball over the center fielder's head. Eddie learned an important lesson that day, and that is success builds confidence. This is not to say that every time Eddie stepped into the batter's box he was successful, because that wasn't the case. But unlike previous outings, he went to the plate with the knowledge that he had the ability to be successful. His teammates instantly gained a new respect for his prowess with the bat. Most importantly, during practices, they would no longer play the outfield at a shallow depth when Eddie came to the plate. After receiving much praise from Mr. Mitchell, Eddie took his green glove over to the shortstop area and prepared for fielding practice. He found very little opportunity to field while Billy Ray was at bat. Billy Ray looked like the same weak hitter he had always been. After watching him strike out 5 times in a row, Mr. Mitchell decided not to waste the team's practice time attempting to improve Billy Ray's hitting. Mr. Mitchell then told the team to fall into their respective positions and that he would hit them some grounders. Billy Ray and Eddie were both shortstops and took turns fielding the hard grounders that were smashed their way. Mr. Mitchell was amazed at how well Eddie fielded ground balls with that antique mitt that seemed way too big for his hand. His teammates were quite surprised too. Eddie was usually a barely adequate fielder, but on this day he didn't make an error. If the truth is to be told, he made a number of impressive diving stabs of well-hit line drives off the bat of Johnny Mitchell. Johnny was so mad that Eddie had showed him up that he threw his bat down in disgust. When the practice was over, Eddie's teammates came up to congratulate him on his improvement, but he walked away without acknowledging any of them. Billy Ray, who was always Eddie's best friend on the team, was surprised by his attitude. He shouted at him saying, "Eddie, they're just trying to be friendly. Eddie, did you hear me? Eddie, what's wrong with you?" Eddie pretended he was deaf and ignored Billy Ray and exited the practice field by himself. He thinks he's too good for us now. Today was just a fluke. You watch. Tomorrow he'll play just as crummy as he always does. The only difference will be that no one will feel sorry for him, especially after today's display, Johnny announced bitterly to his teammates. He gets a few lucky hits and he becomes all stuck up. What a clown, Stevie commented resentfully. Come on, fellas, leave him alone. He's probably having problems at home. Just get off his case. He's improving, and that helps the team. Believe me, that is a benefit to all of us. Okay? Mr. Mitchell pleaded. The team begrudgingly grunted in assent to their coach's demand and hurried away from the practice field. Next chapter. Let's make a deal or a battle is brewing. Eddie came home from practice and without even saying hello, went straight upstairs to his room. His mother, who was in the kitchen preparing the evening meal, saw only his shadow as he climbed the stairs. She found this behavior quite odd and climbed the stairs after him. She found him lying on his bed. "You tired again, honey?" "No, I just want to be left alone," Eddie stated in a totally self-absorbed state of mind. "Practice didn't go well, huh?" "No, it went great." "Did the team like your new mitt?" Johnny made fun of it, but that was to be expected. "Well, I made you a nice dinner, fried chicken with mashed potatoes and corn." "Sounds great, Mom, but I'm really not hungry." Mrs. Romano looked over at the many baseball player posters hanging on the wall and said, "Eddie, if you don't eat, you'll never make it to the major leagues." "Yeah, you got a point there, Mom. Give me a little time to myself and I'll be down later." "Good. Your father will be home a little bit late this evening, so maybe you two could eat together." "That's a possibility." "You sure you're all right, honey?" his mother asked again, sensing that something was wrong. "Just fine, Mom," Eddie insisted. Mrs. Romano looked at him suspiciously. She had some kind of intuition or a mother's sixth sense that trouble was brewing, but since Eddie wouldn't fess up to anything bothering him, she just shrugged it off and closed his bedroom door. Eddie got off his bed and pushed the play button on his cassette player and listened to Babe Ruth talking baseball again. He listened to the same tired recordings so many times it was hard to believe that they continued to interest him. It wasn't long before Eddie started to tire, and soon he lay daydreaming on his bed wearing his green glove. Before he knew it, he found himself back at that incredibly dreary Major League ballpark, taking infield practice from the same handsome young ball player he had met the night before. In Eddie's eyes, the ball player was the only thing that wasn't dreary about this place. Somehow he seemed out of place. He just seemed to have way too much energy and life in him to be hanging out in such a drab and dismal place. His entire persona was vibrant and bright, from his ancient White Sox uniform to his green patent leather baseball cleats. There was one thing for certain about this guy. He was an original. He reminded Eddie of an old-fashioned version of the football icon Neon Deion Sanders. He must have been the first prototype of the trend that would encompass sports in the years to come. He just seemed very ostentatious, and he caught the ball like a real showboat. Every time Eddie would throw him the ball back after fielding it, the ball player would catch the ball as if he was a Harlem Globetrotter basketball player. He put on a show, catching the ball barehanded or behind his back using a remarkably plain-looking baseball glove. Realizing that Eddie was pretty much warmed up as far as, quote, easy fielding was concerned, he threw that plain-looking glove on the ground and picked up a bat. He decided that it was now time to truly test the boy's prowess with the glove. He tossed the ball into the air and smashed it with the bat toward Eddie, whom he had playing shortstop. The ball skipped underneath Eddie's glove uncontested. Eddie looked between his legs in amazement as it whizzed by. "Damn! You hit that ball hard," Eddie exclaimed. "Eddie, you got to get your entire body in front of the ball. That way if it takes a bad hop, you keep it in the infield. That could save your team a run someday. Believe me, I'm talking from personal experience now. I learned that lesson the hard way. I flubbed way too many of them in my day," said the ball player, whose wisdom seemed to be far greater than his apparent years. "I can't believe that you ever flubbed anything," Eddie said in astonishment. "Kid, believe me when I tell you, I've made my mistakes." Before another word could be said along those lines, somebody dark and menacing walked out of the dugout. As he came into view, Eddie saw that he was a very distinguished-looking man, wearing a dark suit. He just stood near the ball player as if to make his presence known. "I guess you weren't lying. There are other people here," Eddie commented. "I may not always speak the truth, but I never lie, Eddie. By the way, I have to tell you one more thing, and that is if you want to continue to improve your play, you're going to have to start wishing that your teammates do poorly," the ball player said, looking out toward the ominous man in black as if he was seeking approval. "Really? You mean I could lose the magic in the glove?" Eddie asked with concern. "Yup. Magic only works if you wish that your teammates do poorly," the ball player said in an unconvincing tone of voice. "Just remember that. Now, let's get back to some more fielding tips. Now, Eddie, you got to bend your knees and put your glove right down to the ground when fielding those grounders. This way the ball won't go underneath your glove, and if it takes a bad hop, you can make a quick adjustment. Here, try it on this one." The handsome young ball player picked up a ball, tossed it in the air, and smashed a hard grounder toward Eddie, who this time got his glove down and his body in front of the ball. Eddie made the play. "Way to go, Eddie. You sure fielded that ball a lot better. You know something, kid? I really think you've got some talent there." The dark, menacing figure again stuck his head out of the dugout and gave the ball player a dirty look. "Who's your friend?" Eddie asked, pointing toward the dugout. "Let's just call him the manager." "Oh, he's your boss, huh?" "Yeah, he keeps me on my toes." "I can tell. You know, this whole dream is weird. I swear I never saw you before last night, and usually I don't dream about people that I've never laid eyes upon. But I really appreciate all the help you've been giving me. I had my best practice today ever." Just remember the rules, kid. Make sure you do what I tell you to do, and you'll continue to improve. I believe you. You're a pretty good coach, you know that? You probably would have made a great manager if you didn't end up here. How'd you get here anyway? And for that matter, where are we? "Well, I guess you could say we're in dreamland," the coach said with a nervous laugh. He added, and as far as how I got here is concerned, it's really too long of a story to tell. That's what I like about you. Never a straight answer. You're like a nice Freddy Krueger, you know that? I'm afraid you lost me, kid. I'm not quite up to date with, what'd you call him? Freddy Krueger? You'll have to tell me more about him some other time. But right now, we got baseball to learn. Okay, now here's the situation. You got a runner on second and 1 out, and the ball's hit to you. What do? I check the runner.